The lighthouse that shouldn't exist. The North Atlantic is full of stories that sailors whisper about, but rarely write down. Some say the ocean remembers everything, every ship that sank, every life that vanished beneath the waves. And sometimes the sea gives something back. In the winter of 1978, a cargo vessel named the Aurora Wind was making its way across a particularly remote part of the North Atlantic. The route was quiet, far from normal shipping lanes, chosen to avoid a violent storm system moving across the usual routes. The captain, Elias Carter, had spent over 30 years at sea and believed he had seen nearly everything the ocean could show a man. But what his crew encountered during that voyage would follow them for the rest of their lives. It began late at night, when the ocean was unusually calm. The sky was thick with clouds, and the moon was hidden behind a heavy gray blanket. The radar showed nothing unusual, no ships, no islands, no obstacles. Yet the lookout standing at the bow suddenly called down to the bridge, claiming he could see a faint light flickering in the distance. At first, the crew assumed it was another vessel, perhaps a fishing boat drifting in the dark. But the light didn't move like a ship. Instead, it blinked slowly, rhythmically, like the beam of a lighthouse. This immediately confused the captain. According to every map and navigation chart on board, there were no islands or structures anywhere near their position. The ocean beneath them was thousands of meters deep, and the nearest land was hundreds of kilometers away. Yet as the ship slowly approached the source of the light, the crew began to see the outline of something impossible rising from the dark sea. There, in the middle of empty water, stood a massive lighthouse. It looked ancient, far older than anything that should have existed in that region of the ocean. The structure was tall and narrow, made of dark stone that appeared almost black under the weak glow of the lantern at the top. Waves crashed violently against its base, but the tower stood firm, as if it had been there for centuries. No surrounding rocks, no island beneath it, just a towering lighthouse rising straight from the open sea. The crew gathered on the deck, staring in stunned silence. Some believed they were hallucinating, others wondered if their charts were simply outdated. But the strangest thing wasn't the lighthouse itself. It was the fact that the light seemed weak and irregular, as if the mechanism powering it was failing. Captain Carter made a decision that many of the crew would later regret. Believing there might be stranded sailors or a malfunctioning navigation beacon, he ordered a small inspection boat to be lowered into the water. 3 crew members volunteered to investigate the tower: Thomas Reed, Miguel Alvarez, and Daniel Cho. Equipped with flashlights and radios, they slowly approached the base of the lighthouse, their small boat rocking in the dark water. As they got closer, the structure looked even stranger. The stone was worn and cracked, covered in thick layers of sea salt and dark green algae. Rusted metal stairs wrapped around the outside of the tower, leading to a narrow door halfway up the structure. The door itself was slightly open, swaying with the wind. Reed reported back over the radio that they were going to climb inside. At first, everything seemed normal. Their voices echoed faintly through the radios as they described the interior: a spiral staircase winding upward into darkness, old lantern mechanisms, broken glass panels, and the smell of salt and damp stone. But as they climbed higher, something strange began to happen. Their voices grew quieter, as if the radios were losing signal. Then Reed said something that made the crew on the Aurora Wind fall completely silent. "Captain, there are footprints up here." The captain asked what he meant. Reed replied that the footprints in the dust looked fresh, as if someone had been walking inside the lighthouse very recently. The captain immediately asked if anyone else could be there. Reed paused. Then he said something even more disturbing. "The footprints? They're going up the stairs." A moment later, Miguel Alvarez spoke over the radio, his voice shaking. "But they never come back down." The signal suddenly filled with loud static. Then the radios went completely silent. The Aurora wind waited nearly 20 minutes with no contact. The captain repeatedly called their names over the radio, but there was no response. Finally, fearing something had gone terribly wrong, he ordered another crew member to bring the small boat back to the ship. When the boat returned, it was empty. No Reed, no Alvarez, no Cho. The crew immediately turned their searchlights toward the lighthouse. The tower stood exactly where it had been moments before, its dim light still flickering weakly at the top. But something had changed. The door that had been slightly open before was now completely closed. The captain made the difficult decision to leave the area. The storm system they had been avoiding was rapidly approaching, and the sea was becoming increasingly violent. With 3 crew members already missing, he couldn't risk losing more men. But as the Aurora wind slowly turned away from the lighthouse, the lookout shouted something from the bow. The light at the top of the tower had suddenly become brighter, much brighter, brighter than it had been the entire night. And as the crew watched in stunned silence, the beam of light slowly rotated across the ocean, sweeping across the deck of the Aurora wind one final time, almost like the lighthouse was watching them leave. The captain later reported the incident to maritime authorities, providing exact coordinates of where the lighthouse had appeared. Within days, a search vessel was sent to investigate the area. But when they arrived at those coordinates, they found nothing. No lighthouse, no rocks, no island, just empty ocean stretching endlessly in every direction. And the strangest part of the story, years later, when investigators reviewed the final radio transmission from Thomas Reed, they noticed something chilling buried beneath the static. A faint sound, not waves, not wind, but what sounded like distant footsteps, slowly climbing upward, inside the lighthouse.